So we've talked about the fasting mimicking diet. There's, when we began our talk, we talked about different kinds of fasting, or that there are a lot out there. What's the difference between that and something like the one where you can eat whatever you want within a 5 or 6 hour window each day, or other ones where you just don't eat for 1 day a week, or things like that? What are the differences, and do those have any benefit to them?
They all have some potential benefits, not the same. So only when you do a fast for 4 days or longer. But we never want to get too far, because once you get too far out, then you really get into starvation, and the body's processes are really quite different. So, but when you fast for just 1 day, you will lose weight. But because it's really hypocaloric. So it's really about the calories and the quantity of food. When you do like the 5-2, where you don't eat anything or very, very, very little for 2 days out of every 7, people lose weight because they're eating less.
Sure.
But none of these other mechanisms of what we call autophagy, that's the cellular rejuvenation or the killing off of the crappy cells or the stem cells, you don't get what I didn't mention before, which is increase in brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which makes you feel calmer and actually smarter. In the mice, they could run their mazes better. So, and I feel amazing. I've heard this from many patients. On day 5, you feel like you could beat everyone in chess, even if you don't play chess. So how great is that? You feel super smart, and you stay smarter. That's the nice thing. Like, you may go up and then down a little bit, but then you go back up, and then you stay at a higher level. So it's really good for brain health. None of that will happen when you do like the 5-2. But if someone needs to lose weight, there are tremendous benefits just by losing weight. We know that obesity gives you leaky gut. It creates chronic inflammation, which goes down the path of atherosclerosis and dementia. So I totally would encourage people to do the 5-2 if that's really all they can manage for whatever the reason. And some people do that, and they also do a fasting mimicking diet, because once you get into sort of a rhythm with it, if you're reasonably healthy, you only have to do the fasting mimicking diet about 4 times or even 3 times a year. And so that leaves lots of weeks of the year that if people want to, they could do the 5-2 for the really for the weight loss benefits. Now, time restricted eating, which you mentioned, where you eat only during a certain window, a lot of people do that really wrong. So if you do it right, it is very beneficial, because we now know that that's all about the circadian rhythm, that our bodies were designed to live on the clock. So everything is by the clock. We evolved on planet Earth. I know we love to, fantasize about space travel, but we're really Earthlings. Our bodies are completely in sync with the 24-hour rotation of the Earth. And that includes every metabolic process in the body, like when our insulin comes out, the way our immune system works, everything in the body is on essentially a 24-hour timer. And if you eat at the wrong time, you really misset all of our clocks, because a lot of our clock genes are in our gut microbiome and in our liver. Those are what we call peripheral clock genes, and they do not know if it's light or dark intrinsically. They get signals from the master clock in the brain, which can sense light and dark, but they really are set very heavily as well in addition to the master clock, by when we eat. And that really helps to fine-tune our clocks to help our organs work together in sync. When you have a liver that's discombobulated, that it's not in sync with what the time of day really is, you get what's called uncontrolled gluconeogenesis. You just pour out sugar for no reason. It's uncontrolled. The feedback mechanisms aren't working, and you pour out triglycerides, which are fats. That's why people who are out of sync with their circadian rhythm, and they get fatty liver, they have high cholesterol, heart disease. It all links back to their circadian rhythm, and time-restricted eating can help to set that. It can actually lower your risk of all of these metabolic problems. But it's not just fasting during the day, like time-restricted eating, it's when you do it. So what a lot of people are doing is they're skipping breakfast, and then they're pushing all their meals into the end of the day, because they like to eat dinner and go out and everything, but that's actually not the way to do it. It turns out that for real best results, you should eat, not that many people are going to do this, but in an optimal setting, you should eat a very big, healthy breakfast. Not traditional American breakfast foods, of course, more like dinner for breakfast, where you have lots of plants, like vegetable soup or a stir fry with vegetables and maybe some whole grains, nuts and seeds, a big healthy breakfast, which by the way has been shown to reduce appetite for the rest of the day tremendously, so that people have far less appetite and they don't have cravings. So a very good way to do time-restricted eating would be to eat a big breakfast after a 13-hour fast during the night. That you get very limited return if you fast overnight more than 13 hours. So you don't get back, you get more suffering than you get benefit at that point. 13 hours isn't easy as it is.
Yeah.
But we know for women with breast cancer, the risk is tremendously reduced of breast cancer in women with a 13-hour fast. So I encourage that to everyone, because if you're going to reduce breast cancer, you're going to reduce everything, because everything is linked together. That's why when they have these studies and they're shocked, oh my gosh, there's a link between osteoporosis and dementia. It's like, that's not surprising, because they're all part of the same inflammation, what they call inflammaging, where you're aging and getting inflammation. So of course they all come together as a package. So this is really, really a helpful thing, to eat the big breakfast and then have a very small lunch. And because our society, it would probably be best if we had a big breakfast and then a medium lunch and a very tiny dinner, but people won't do that. So you got to be pragmatic or practical. So I say eat a big breakfast, a very small lunch, and then eat a moderate dinner. And try to, as many days as you can, be done eating by 7. How are you going to get your 13-hour fast in? I mean, what time, because you should eat breakfast by 10. So you shouldn't eat, it's not going to be breakfast if you eat it after. And optimally, you should eat within 2 hours after you wake up. You don't have to eat instantly, but within 2 hours, but not later than 10 in the morning. So this idea that you'll eat later dinner, a big dinner, and then you won't eat again until 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon is not a good idea. So you can't just do time-restricted eating whenever you want to, because whether you like it or not, your genetics are programmed a certain way. These are embedded in our genes, these clock genes. 1/3 of the genes of our body are actual clock genes, and about 90% relate to clock genes. So basically everything in our body is timed, and this has been the most incredible discovery of life. Every single life form, including single-cell creatures like the bacteria in our gut, they have clocks. That's the whole thing, is that they can respond to feeding times. In fact, we have a different microbiome at different times of the day and night. It actually has different populations. So it's really amazing what you can actually do to benefit your body by doing what we call time-restricted eating. And that includes no snacks, because you're confusing your clock genes in your microbes. Okay, they don't know what time it is if you keep snacking all day long, and you want to get them on the beat, and that will help your liver, and that leads to metabolic homeostasis for your whole body.